about the funding, you know, why we're doing what we do, and all the components that go into building an IET, okay? And why you are putting your students in these programs. You know, you just may be checking off the box that we need to be doing this. So in your folder, you have what we provided you at summer conference, the components that fill in this template that you have blank. So if you want to open up your binder to this template that gives you some ideas, go ahead. Okay, so right now what I want us to do, this is an IET template for you to be able to build your IETs, okay? So as you are thinking about your IETs and your program, I want you to think about it backwards, okay? And when I say backwards, I'm talking about what do you want your students to be able to accomplish when they finish this IET? And I'm not necessarily talking about if they're in welding, if they're on a welding pathway, finishing welding. Think about this morning when we talked about the relevance of the NCRC. If you're going to count the NCRC as part of your IET, what is the outcome of that IET in that path? Okay, so you've got to be thinking about your outcome and how you're going to measure it. Does that make sense? So looking here, we're going to go into the objective and standards in just a little bit, building our SSLO. But think about one of your IETs that you have at your program, and you can do this individually or as a group, but I want you all to write something on your piece of paper. I want you to think about an IET that you have right now at your program. And I want you to think about, do you know the timeline of that IET? The course delivery, how is it going to be delivered to your students? Okay, some of you are doing online in Canvas, some of you are doing online Workforce College, some of you are counting North Star, some of you are doing face-to-face. Okay, I want you to think about your supportive services and who's going to provide those. I want you to go ahead and identify barriers to completion and what those solutions are. And then what are your measures, your outcome measures? How are you going to measure if it's successful? And then I want you to think about the funding you have at your program. How can you pay for it? What kind of funding do you have at your program? One thing is this, one thing that we're hearing a lot of conversations about is having money to pay for the NCRC. What if you cannot pay for the NCRC the old way that you used to be able to? Through workforce funds. Okay, so think about the funds that you have available at your site. So when you're thinking about your IET, you don't just need to be sitting in your program going, okay, well let's just do North Star, let's do Smart Start, let's do this, or let's think about forklift. Let's just do adult ed, forklift, and Smart Start. And we're going to count that as an IET in a construction pathway. Well, that's great and all, but how are you going to measure if your student's successful? How are you going to pay for the forklift class? Okay, so, you need to be thinking about these things when you're thinking about relevant IET at your program. So, I want y'all to go through this real quickly, just look at it. I want you to think about your target population. Is there a population in your area? And I know with corrections it might be a little bit different. I just keep looking at Shanice back there, but think about your target population that this might benefit when you're designing your IET. So let's just take about 10 minutes, if you will, discuss amongst yourselves. We're not going to present out, but I want you to really put a lot of thought into one of your IETs you have right now. Okay, guys, let's go through this. So, one thing, when we start building our SSLOs here in just a few minutes, as y'all start working on that, looking at this template, you can see right below your objective and standards, you have where it says single set of learning objectives, you have a blank there. That is where your goal is for your program, okay? So when we're building our SSLOs, you have to have a goal, okay, for your IET. So did y'all think about your course timeline and your schedule? How that looks on one of your IETs? Does anybody want to tell like how one of their IET runs? Elizabeth, what are you saying?
She said we should not do that.
Is it a day, like for instance, like I know Northwest's forklift class runs Tuesday, Thursday, and a Saturday.
Like our CNA runs 4 days a week or 8 weeks.
Okay, so if you know when it runs, and you've got a start date and an end date, right, on that, okay? That's how you're gonna know how you're gonna build your SSLO. Okay, your SSLO, you've got to figure out, are you going to build it out by outcome? Are you going to build it out by the day? If it's an 8-week class, you're going to build it out by the week. So remember, you got to think about it like that. Course delivery. How's the course going to be delivered? I know one program uses Canvas, their CNA program. Kelly, is that y'all or CNA? Gulf Coast's CNA program is completely online. Okay, so when you're thinking about that, your course delivery, you got to think about your instructional methods and what else. We talked about it this morning. You got to think about what else. The team teaching, right? Also, you got to think about your contextualized instruction. How are you going to overlap all those things? What services are you going to provide? What are some services that y'all provide right now? Transportation, gas cards, okay, tools, scrubs, the TV, yep. All right, do you take into consideration the barriers to your IET? Of the completion, do y'all take into consideration that? What are some barriers? What are some barriers? Just yell it out. Wendy, your table. What's some barriers? Transportation. Okay. Child care. Those are the two main things. Y'all, our students have other barriers. What are some other barriers? No support at home, right? Okay. What if you are offering the training in an online format? Technology, limited access, right? Okay. So what are some solutions? You got to think about solutions. These are things that, as you're thinking about your IET, how it's going to be not only successful for the student, but how the student can be successful in the IET. Okay? So when we think about barriers, guys, when you're writing down barriers, it's almost like a job interview. Okay? When you're asked what your weaknesses are, we all have weaknesses, but you got to have what? A solution. You got to be able to tell what the solution is. So if you're going to identify barriers within your IET, you got to have what? A solution. Partners. You got to have something there to assist you with that. So if you know transportation is an issue within your program, if you know transportation is going to be a barrier or digital access is going to be a barrier to your student, that's something that you need to think about, and if there's a solution out there or some things out there to help you with that, okay? So don't put down barriers if we can't think of maybe some solutions or things to help you with that, okay? All right, and your outcome measures, and we have those. That's one thing that you see them all listed here. Now think about your funding. What funding do you have? Who? You have My Best, Second chance, dropout recovery. Who? ITAs, your ETPL, right? That's a big one. Supportive services. Do any of you have little mini grants that you write out? Get assistance within your communities, maybe from an employer, from Rotary, from the chamber. Do y'all have anything like that? Those are some things that you need to be thinking about when it comes to limited funds. Definitely reach out into your communities. Okay? So this is just a template as you think about your IETs. I really want you to go back to your program and I want you to assess your IETs and make sure that they are relevant, make sure that they are going to really assist our students in a pathway to where they're going to be successful. You know, that's the one thing that we've said all along this past year about our multi-level career pathways, and that is that we want our students to have more skills than when they enrolled with you, okay? If you are doing North Star, if you are doing the NCRC, if you are doing forklift, and they never progress on, you've still provided them with a certificate or with a credential where they are more employable than when they enrolled with you in your program, okay? So that's what I want y'all to use. That's a great little template for y'all to use that and assess your program. Now, for the good stuff, you all have a program on your on your table, okay? I did not make enough copies for everybody, so you're gonna have to like look on with each other. If you're online, you have the forklift template, Northeast and Holmes, y'all have the forklift template. You all have the outcomes sitting on your table. So based off this template, and based off what we've already discussed, I want you to, in your group, because you're going to show this to us tomorrow to some degree. Now, you don't have to build it all the way out, okay? But I want you to build a single set of learning objectives with the template that I provided you as well, okay? So pull up your, there should be a template of single set of learning objectives. Let's see, let me see if I can go here. Okay, so you're going to want to think about what adult education and literacy activity is included in the IET. So which workforce preparation activities are included and which occupational training is included. Do they occur simultaneously within the overall scope? Do they vary in intensity? Do they function cooperatively? Okay. What is the relevant material that you need to include? What are your CCR standards? And the overall scope. When does it begin and end? How are your classes designed? And what is your outcome? So, with your template that you have on your desk, on your table, you're going to build out some of the outcomes. So looking at the outcomes of the training that you have, some of you have EMT, some have CNA, some have OSHA, and I don't know what the truck driving. So these are very short-term trainings. So I want you to look at the outcomes of your training. You all have CCRS standards on your table. Okay, and I want you to build out, let's try to do maybe the first three, let's just start building it, but remember what I said a few minutes ago, I want you to think about what first, when you're building your IET, think about what? Your outcomes. So at the top of your template, you have something that says, gives you an example and it's like, students will be able to what? Students will demonstrate what? Remember the action verbs that we taught you. Cindy and Tiara provided you training on SSLOs about action verbs. And I did not bring all that with me today because This is hands-on. We're just going to jump in there and do it together.
Those are on the back of one of our handouts we gave today.
Okay, they are on, one of them's on the back. So what you want to do is you want to think about your outcomes, and it's not just going to be one outcome. It's not going to just be students going to learn EMT, whatever it is, okay? You've got to show where the three components are working cooperatively together in your goals. Does that make sense? So let's think about our goals of your, so let's start off before you build out your SSLO. What is the goal or the goals of your training? Let's think about that right now. Hey guys, I want y'all to look up at the screen because it sounds like some are having a little bit of difficulty trying to come up with your goals. Are y'all having some difficulty? Okay, so this is Meridian's electricity, I think it is, and thank goodness that Jennifer shared it, and I just kind of tweaked it a little bit. So if you will see that I have named it the IET name, of course, I've got it written out. Target population, I don't have that because I want you to determine that. Then my timeline, we don't know what that is. I mean, you've got to determine that. But if you will notice each bullet, I have got, student will demonstrate competencies in electrical safety, electrical connection to the power company, basic test equipment while learning the basic concepts of electricity. Students will be introduced to the competencies of the National Electrical Code, NEC. Students will receive, upon successful completion, the basic electricity certification in order to transition into further electrical training to become an electrician or employment in the electrical field. Students will pass with a bronze or higher on the NCRC, and they will pass a 75% or higher on employability skills class, resulting in a state credential, Mississippi Smart Start Pathway credential. Those are my goals for that electrical program, okay? Where did I get my outcomes from? I looked at what Meridian had written out, okay, for that. So I looked at the description of that class that they had in their handout on their website, and I just made this up. I mean, I don't know if this is like, you know, true, everything, but I mean, it's in the description of the class. Okay, so without me looking at the outcomes, I could get my goals from the description of the class, what the students are expected to learn. So let me ask you this. Looking at every single one of these bullets, can this be measured? Can this be measured? Right, okay? That's what you want. So let me ask you this. Are all three of my components of an IET listed in the bullets? Are there basic skills there? Is there workforce training there? Is there employability skills there in the goals? This is the way you kind of want to write your goals for your programs, for your IETs. Your goals need to include the overall scope of your IET, including the three components. How are you going to include the three components in your IET? I don't want y'all to get so wrapped up into this that it stresses you out. I will tell you, they are never going to come visit us on how we design our SSLOs, okay? They're not going to look there and say, this is not an appropriate goal. They're not going to sit there and say, this is not something that you should have put in there. That's not what they're going to do. They're going to look and see if we have the three components of the IET on the SSLO. They're not even going to look at the template. There are no approved federal templates for us to use, okay? You get to design it the way you want to, as long as you can show the three components. So when you're thinking about your goals at your table on the CTE or workforce program that I've given you, think about something like this. What is the student going to learn, and what are the outcomes going to be that you can measure? Okay, so think. Okay, so let's see here. Let's look at truck driving. Okay, this table first. Give me one of your goals of your program. Who's going to report?
Pass the safety test with 80% accuracy.
Okay, pass a safety test with 80% accuracy. That's one of the goals of the program, okay? Back here, this is OSHA back here. Who's going to report here on a goal? Give me your employability skills goal on this table.
Helpful working conditions. Ensure safety and helpful working conditions.
Okay, so how are you going to measure that? Yeah, you're in the goal. You've got to be able to measure your goal. How are you going to know that you met that goal? How are you going to measure it? So you're gonna require NCCR core for OSHA. No? Okay, so if you're going to use OSHA as your IET, what's your employability skills? Do you have an employability skills goal? I'm coming back. Okay, I'm coming over here. Y'all have what over here? CNA?
We have nursing assistants, and we are going to, the student will master the competencies to pass the North Star Digital Literacy Certification Exam, demonstrating digital literacy skills for employment.
Okay, did y'all hear that? They use North Star Digital Literacy to meet their digital literacy component of the IET. Okay? Over here, who's reporting from this table? And what do y'all have again? EMT? Okay. What's one of your goals, Lauren?
Use foundational, are you talking about this?
Your goal. I need your goal. At the end of the program, the learner will be able to
Use foundational anatomical and medical terms and abbreviations in written and oral communications with colleagues and other healthcare.
Okay. All right, Kathleen, did you have something?
My knowledge of lifespan development to patient assessment and management.
Okay, all right. Is anybody managing the virtual with them to be able to give us what, forklift?
Yeah, hold on just a second.
Okay.
Carly, I got something? Kimberly? I unmuted you guys.
We got totally sidetracked with our, we were talking about stuff, but we didn't really actually write it down yet.
Okay.
So you being slackers? I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. Okay, I'm putting you guys back on mute.
Okay, so this is, I can even tell that for some reason, this is difficult. We need to have a real conversation. Why is this difficult? Why? Because it's new. They don't work well in groups. That came from the truck driving table. I am just, Kathleen was like, what? That came from the truck driving table. Okay, y'all got your goal. So wait, hold on a second. I want to hear a good goal here, because I feel like I'm failing at my job.
Okay, it was to comply with, well, I'll go back to, ensure safe and healthy working conditions by scoring a 70% or higher on the OSHA examination.
See, that's it. You've got there, okay? That's one of them, absolutely, okay? So your goals, guys, just remember this. Your goals for your IET need to encompass all three things of the IET, okay? What do you want them to master, and how are you going to measure if they're successful at the end of the IET? It could even be something like this. Like for instance, the one up here, students will receive upon, let's see for a second, I put it here, in order to transition into further electrical training to become an electrician or employment in the electrical field, okay? So if somebody were to look at my goal there, they'll know that I'm not training them right now to actually become an electrician. This is a foundation class that's going to help them transition into further education or employment, okay? So think about all of the goals. If y'all are doing those intro to welding, your goal could be they're going to receive an intro to welding certificate in order to transition into the short-term welding workforce program. Somebody mentioned that to me earlier today. So let that be, y'all think about the entire goal of your IET. Okay? Does that make sense? Yeah. You can make one big sentence if you can get them all three in there. I mean, you know what I'm saying, without it running on, but absolutely, you can. Or you can do bullets. Okay, Kelly. Kelly has a question. Hold on a second. Yeah, we got to have the mic. So the people online.
So I have found this for all of my credit programs. It's on my desk at work. I cannot find it for workforce. Where do I find these for workforce?
You don't. There's not really any curriculum out there for workforce training programs, not really. But I know that, let me just tell you, I can tell you that your workforce training programs are going to be built off your CTE programs to some degree. That's why they're offering them in short term. So you can look at, that's where you probably need to meet with your workforce director or coordinator and say, look, you got a short-term welding program. What are the students going to receive when they exit out of there? Are you going to, do they take a test? Do they get a certification of completion? What do they get? But you can build your outcome, you can build your SSLO for a short-term workforce training program if you have the CTE outcomes of that training, like electrical linemen. Pearl River has it as a 4 credit. I bet you could build a short-term, if y'all offered a 16-week short-term workforce program, you can build that program.
I would say like HVAC for us, we don't have a CTE program for HVAC. We just talk to the HVAC instructors. What you gonna teach them?
Right,
What do we put here?
right. That's what she was just saying. They have HVAC workforce, but not HVAC CTE. Okay? This is where your partnerships within your college are vital for you to be able to know the outcomes. Okay? So, for the next, okay, hold on. I want to get a show of hands here because you're going to have an activity to do over the next several months. Okay, we're going to provide you technical assistance. Right now, on this particular section of your SSLOs, are you comfortable with being given a CTE or workforce program and being able to write the goal of the program, of the IET? Everybody's comfortable with that? All right. Wendy, your table comfortable back there? Yeah? Is online comfortable?
Hold on, let's see. Online, y'all comfortable? Oh, hold on, let me hit the button. My bad. Okay, I'm sorry, Kimberly. Are y'all good?
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so online's good. All right, now you are going to your template. Go to the template, and I want you to start working on the outcome of the training. Correlate, your CCRS with workplace activities. So let's do a few of those, and we're going to discuss them. Okay? So look at your outcomes. For instance, I looked over on the CNA one back there. They probably won't get to the math portion until later on in the training. Okay? She asked me, does it matter if I start with math or reading first? The SSLO is yours. Okay? It's a flowing document. It's not set, if that makes sense. What you want to do is look at the outcomes that you know that your student has to know in order to be successful in that workforce training. So what academic basic skills are you going to, in math and reading and language and all of those things, are you going to have to incorporate in the adult ed side in order to support that training? At the same time, you've got to be thinking about your workplace preparation. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, so let's work on maybe the first three outcomes. Cindy? They got their CCRS, yes, on their table. Okay, so let's just think about 1 second. Have y'all got one outcome written down on your template? Reduce our my best pathway options. Okay, well so let's go back to the PGs that we mentioned this morning that Beth highlighted. All of your IETs require SSLOs. The only thing that distinguishes my best from your other IETs is what? Team teaching and what? Maybe the financial tuition assistance, right? Okay, so your SSLOs are a requirement of all your IETs. And Kelly made a very good point. I want us to make sure that you guys understand that we as a state office know that we are in the process of building these this year, okay? Do not limit your students' access to pathways because you don't have an SSLO. Okay? Do not say, we've only got 2 SSLOs built, so we've got to keep our students to those 2 pathways. Don't do that. Write out the outcomes. Do your very best in writing out what you know they have to know, okay? In that CTE program, look at your CCR standards, get with that instructor, and just put something on paper where you can show that you are attempting to put all 3 components together in that SSLO. Does that make sense? So do not limit your students' access to training because you don't have an SSLO built. Call us, we'll work it with you, okay? So, Wendy, do you want to give us your first CTE outcome and maybe a standard you aligned with it? No? Do you want me to go somebody else first? Okay. Truck driving, do y'all want to go first? Yeah, I'm going to let truck driving go first. Okay, so hold on 1 second. So I noticed here, because you wrote what, the number with the, okay. So this is an example right here, not trying to use them as a bad example, but they're not bad. But you will see that she wrote the outcome out to the left for the workforce, and then she wrote 2.MD.10. That does not tell us anything. You have to write out, it is the standard, but you want to write it out a little bit. What is that standard? So you're going to want to write it out, And if I had that PowerPoint back up, but if you want to write it out and put the standard that you're referencing to, okay? So, Whitney, do you want to do it again? Or just?
Construct appropriate trip planning procedure.
Okay, so one of their outcomes is construct appropriate trip planning procedure. And the CCRS standard that they were going to put with that is 2MD.10. I don't know what that is, but it's to deal with measurement and data. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, what about y'all over here with EMT? Do y'all have a standard, an outcome with a standard? You got one, Andrew? Okay, hey, this is EMT. We're gonna just listen to EMT.
The student will demonstrate medical, legal, and ethical, can't read my writing there, issues and provisions of emergency care, and the reading the code of ethics and different requirements, and recall the key details, which would be recalling information, RL, I can't remember what that is, 9-10.2.
Okay, so he's written out his CCRS standard. What about over here with CNA? Have y'all got one written out? Jennifer, you gonna do it? Okay, what are you saying? Okay, so she's doing communication and interpersonal skills. And then Shanice is going to give us the CCRS.
We're going to do reading anchor 4, interpret words and phrases as they're used in text, include determine technical, connotative, and figurative meanings, and analyze how specific word choice shape the meaning.
Where'd you copy that from? Y'all got that from somewhere. Is that from me? Where'd you get that?
It's actually the CCRS manual.
Oh, okay. That looked too good. They be cheating back here. Okay, what you got here, Wendy? Want to do it? What is you're going to do your standard, your CTE. Okay, so identify and apply safety around welding operations. No, just this one right here.
We can't hear.
Okay, so using anchor 4, interpreting words and phrases.
Anchor 7, integrate and evaluate content presented in diverse media and formats, including visually and quantitatively as well as in words.
Okay. Each day. Right. Okay, and what about them? All right, online, turn you guys on.
Okay, who's speaking? Carl, you? Who's speaking for you guys? Hello? I'm on mute too. Is anybody talking? Kim, if you talking, you can do it yourself, shouldn't you? Hello? Australia? Carl, can y'all hear me? Check your ear. Who's gonna speak for you guys? Anybody? You all have anything to say? Okay, Kim, there you go.
We're a little bit behind.
Well, hamburger, hot dog, ketchup. I'm just kidding. Trying to make everybody laugh. So what do y'all need? Braun is listening.
We have discussed, I don't know. We just can't get them matched up, that's what we have to do.
So you want to come back to him, Braun?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, we'll come back to you guys.
Well, and that's, I think they're our last group.
Get it together. I'm just kidding. All right, y'all got this. Y'all can do it. I believe you guys. Y'all can do it. All right, we'll come back to you guys. Maybe tomorrow? Okay, tomorrow. Is that good? Shake your head.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think that y'all can see how this, you just can't sit down and write these out, right? Okay, so tomorrow morning when we come back in here, you're gonna be with your group, so you can just leave everything here, okay? You're going to build out a few more of the outcomes with your CCRS, okay? So, what you're gonna do is you're gonna come in here in the morning, you can do this, what time do we start tomorrow? 9, okay? Just come in, you start working on it, that's how we're gonna start. And we're gonna let each group report out on your goals. Today you reported out on 1, so you're gonna wanna report out on your 3 goals, or however many goals you have for your IET, okay? Then you're going to report out on at least 3 outcomes of the workforce training and what CCRS standard you put with it, along with what workplace preparation activity you put with it, okay? Whether it be team building, communication, we did not even get into that today, okay? And that's what we're going to do in the morning. Going to come back just to let you practice, okay? Now, that we're gonna finish today with you looking up at the screen, because I feel like this has kind of been a little overwhelming for the afternoon for you guys, and I do not want you stressing about this. So everybody's been asking, hey, are we going to have to build out all of our pathways for our program and, say Holmes is going to do all their IETs and then East Central's going to do all their IETs. Well, maybe they have 3 or 4 that overlap. Okay, and everybody's doing the same programs. Well, several years ago, Meridian Community College built out their pathways or built out their IETs. So we have every program, every training that you see up on the screen, we already have 2 columns already built on the programs that you see up at the top on the screen. So I went through and I just divvied up programs for you, for your program to build. Okay, and this was sent out to you on Friday. So like for instance, if you're Pascagoula, you got welding. You already have the 2 columns built already for you. You have the CCRS standards aligning to the outcomes of welding. All you have to do is add your 3rd column and your goals. Same thing for everybody else. So this means you have 1 IET to build. Okay, and we're going to put these all on the website for you to be able to go and refer to where everybody can have a copy. Okay, so like Jones, you have electrical technology. Okay, now if you look up there and you say, well, I don't have that program at my place anymore, or whatever, that's not relevant to me, just call me and we'll swap you out with somebody. Okay? So just take a look up there, if you will, and tell me if you're comfortable with the IET program that you have. Everybody comfortable? So you have 1. Now, we're going to have to build forklift. We're going to have to build OSHA. We're going to have to build electrical lineman, I don't think that's up there. we are gonna have to build some that are not already built. That's kind of why I gave you EMT, that's why I gave you CNA, that's why I gave you OSHA, and that's why I gave you truck driving and forklift. Because those are very popular programs that we're using right now as IETs. Okay? So those are ones that we're going to have to work on this year. But do you see how difficult it is to work it, to write them? Okay. So let's thank Meridian, thank Jennifer for allowing to let us have all of those other ones that are already built. Because she thought she was going to have to build a third column on all of them. And I said, no, if you'll let me give them out to the programs, we can get one program apiece, pretty much. Okay? I gave, I know, Rankin and Grenada, y'all are not as connected to My Best and IETs. So you'll notice that I gave you ACT Work Keys curriculum. And I think I gave you North Star Rankin. Okay? So those are two that we're going to be using a lot this year. Okay? So any questions? Any concerns? I'm going to send them Friday. No, I'm sending them Friday when I get back in the office. Mm-hmm. Remember, we have a deadline. Remember I said at the beginning of the year, we're going to let you build on these, let you give, make sure it meets the standards. I want you to review it pretty good, okay? Get with CTE or workforce, make sure everything lines up, okay? And then you're going to submit them to us. The deadline we put on that's March 30th. Okay? We are going to be providing you some technical assistance during this time, okay? To build them. And like I said, we're going to have them all on the website for everybody to have access to by July 1. That's our goal for the year. And I think it's doable. Any questions or concerns? No questions or concerns about your SSLOs that you're going to be building in the morning. You're going to come in and just start working with your group, okay? All right.